Richard Worthington reached out to me about 2 years ago and said, I know some things about axiology. I want to talk to someone who knows more. So he met over lunch and started talking, and since then he's become a huge contributor to my own understanding of axiology, to my own vision for what this institute can become. He's a success coach by training, and he's been a success coach to me. And we're working together on a couple of research projects that I'm very, very excited about. The best I can say about Richard is that he's on the earth to give back to the world, and he's decided one of the areas he wants to give back is to help advance the Hartman Institute. So he was not only instrumental in planning this conference, helping me think through what we should do, how we should do it. He willingly allowed me to rope him into going to the UN Civil Society Conference, which wasn't such a big success, but he was there. And he's even agreed in the past few months to serve on the Hartman board. So I'm very, very appreciative of Richard Worthington, and I hope you look forward, as I do, to him sharing his story. Richard, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Cliff. It's a pleasure to be here. For me, when Cliff actually said, I want you to think about this topic of changing the world, this is something that I have woken up almost every day of my life wanting to do. I want to change the world. It's been said to change the world, you have to change yourself. And maybe I understood that, maybe I didn't. I wasn't quite sure. Today I want to share with you a few stories. I want to share with you a couple of principles after that. What I have learned over the last 20 plus years as an entrepreneur. My background's business. It's the vehicle I chose in my profession to change the world. And I want to share with you some stories of individuals. You'll probably resonate with some of these people. And then I want to share with you some principles that I've learned about changing the world. First, one of the first things I was able to be involved in, this is Malawi, Africa. If any of you know about Malawi, it's one of the poorest countries in the world, had one of the highest death rates due to child starvation. But that wasn't the problem. See, most of these children actually died with full stomachs. There's plenty of food. There's plenty of aid. The problem is when a child got into a malnourished state, it couldn't get back based on the food that was given, usually grain or some kind of maize. It couldn't get back out of this malnourished state, and so they died with full stomachs. So we thought we were changing the world, yet we didn't solve the problem. I luckily was involved in a product called Vitamil that we actually could donate and would nourish a child. We coupled that with requiring a child to go to a school to receive this meal. And if they came to school, they got educated in their mind and they got fed in their bellies with the desire to end this cycle of poverty, right? This cycle of death. And myself and quite a few others being involved, we were able to donate hundreds of millions of meals to the point where Malawi now has 0 deaths due to child starvation. It was an incredible opportunity. And for me, was it something that I did? Did I change the world? And I would ask that. Next, I want to share with you a story about an individual. His name's Peter. He's on the far right. Now, I met Peter in the Czech Republic when I was doing business over there. And I think he was 17 years old at the time I first met him. He didn't speak English very well, wasn't dressed very well, didn't really present himself very well, but there was something innate inside of him. And in fact, as I started to work with him over several years and watched him develop and watched him blossom or bloom, I would say, to the point when my last meeting with him occurred. I'll never forget it. We're sitting across from each other. I'm waiting for my flight to leave Prague. And it was as if I was interviewing him for Forbes magazine. And I felt honored to be there. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Look at the transformation that this one person had. His transformation actually impacted tens of thousands of people, not only in the Czech Republic, but in other countries around the world. And I think my intuition kind of came true. He's been an incredible business entrepreneur ever since. Next, I want to share with you a quick story about my friend Tui. And to preface that, I ask again, have I changed the world? Did I change the world? Did I actually get what I wanted when I had that innate desire every day to wake up to do that? Tui I met in New Zealand. She's from Tonga, immigrated to New Zealand. Being an immigrant, being a mother, being a woman, she felt like the odds had been stacked against her, especially being a Polynesian woman. And her desire was to do something more. And I remember, I'll never forget, I spoke at a conference there in Auckland, and she was so adamant that she wanted to talk more that she came and met me at a McDonald's next to the airport before I left. And we continued a conversation that I believe maybe has changed the world. I'm not sure. I know it's changed something. Tui's desire was, again, to do something for her community, to change this culture that they have in their community, and to really stand out and be a shining light. I'm excited and actually very proud. This is Tui just last week, sharing her story in front of 16,000 people and sharing principles of what she's done to change the world, maybe. So I ask again, have I changed the world? Let me share with you the last story. And I have to share this one because it resonates so well with me. This is my friend Aloha. She's also Tongan, living in New Zealand. And what's unique about Aloha is that she wanted to do something more for her family. Anybody ever felt that way? I want to leave a legacy. I want to give back. I want my kids to have more than I had. Well, Aloha's unique because when I first met her a couple of years ago, she had 10 kids. And I thought, are you kidding me? Man, wow, 10 kids. Congratulations, or I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure how to put that. Today, she has 12. And she just had her 12th last week here in Utah, of all places. So now I think this is her first American in the family. And Aloha had this desire, like I said, to change her family situation, to give them new opportunities, to share with them new thought patterns, take them different places, to expose them to the thinking of the world so they can be better people and not just keep them confined in one space as they would have had to be in their circumstances. She has now been able to do incredible things, has taken her family onto multiple continents all over the world. 10 kids, that's an incredible feat. But you know what I really love? There was no excuse. I mean, how many times do we say, well, I'm gonna do something yet while I'm busy? I mean, if you got 10 kids, now you got 12 kids, I'm gonna say that's the best excuse anybody can give you. I can't do that, I have 12 kids. But she didn't. She said, no, I'm gonna do something else. This is more important to me. That's why I love Aloha. That's why I love that story. So, did I change the world? You know what, at this point in my life and my career, and I look at 20 plus years meeting with tens of thousands of people, having personal one-on-one conversations with probably 30, 40,000 people, the question changed. And it had to. And I realized one major thing in my life that changed everything for me. I didn't want to change the world. Why was I waking up every morning thinking, I want to change the world? I wanted to change my world. That's what I wanted to change. And so I realized this, that what I wanted for others is what I really want for myself. When I woke up that morning going, I'm going to go help change the world, I wanted it for me. And it wasn't until I actually took that time to go, why? What is it? Why is that? Did my world begin to change? And I believe Hartman talked about this. This is why I resonate with it. And I want to share with you a couple of principles. Number one, Hartman talked about a couple of things. This won't be exactly in line, but I think these principles do match up quite well. Number one, he talked about you have to know yourself or know who you want to become. And I think I was missing that. Although we taught that, we help people understand, I want to give that to you guys right now as an assignment. At whatever stage in life you are, wherever you're at, What's the next level for you? Is there more? What does that look like? One assignment I gave for myself that frankly started most of this, my career, I sat down with a piece of paper, and I don't even know where I got this from, but I wrote at the top, if life was perfect in every way, what would it look like? And I realized there was something inside of me wanting to be more and to do more, right? But it was something inside of me calling, and this was my opportunity to write that down. I want you to write that down right now. For us to change the world, I believe our worlds have to change. And whatever level you're at, there is more. That's my message for you today. How do we do that? Number one, as Hartman said, you have to know what that is and continue to think about it. When was the last time you thought about where you're at in your life? And what's that next level? Maybe I'll ask you this same question. What do you want for somebody else? Because that's really easy. If you're a parent, you probably have run across this. Well, I want this for my kids. And maybe try this hat on. Is that really what I wanted for me? And can I still have it? Yes, you can. What is it that you're wanting for other people? Because I guarantee you may find the same truth I did. It was for me that I wanted that. And the moment that I had that for myself, I could then lift somebody else to that same level. That's my first point for you. The second thing I want to share, I love what this says. We come to know that human values are infinitely more important than social or material values, and hence than all efforts, political or technological, to change the world. You know what that tells me? That tells me that we work on ourselves. That working on this human value, this, me, myself as a human, is where we start. Inside. Hartman talked a lot about this. I believe this can be said in a couple of different ways as well. Gandhi said it this way: be the change you wish to see in the world. So many times we look out there and we see what's happening and we go, man, I want that to change, and I want that to change, and I want that to change. And I wish that person would change. Again, I think it comes back to my first point. We want for others what we want for ourselves. Is it really myself wanting to change? Because then it doesn't bother me anymore if that's the case. I'm not sure. Lao Tzu, if you want to awaken all of humanity, one of my favorites, then awaken all of yourself. I believe this is what Hartman's work really is, the essence is all about, getting us to awaken all of ourselves, to find out what it is that we have inside of us, that capacity, that one individual we know can make a difference, can change the world. If you want to eliminate the suffering in the world, then eliminate all that is dark and negative in yourself. Truly, the greatest gift you have to give is that of your own transformation. Understanding this, understanding the little bit that I do know about Hartman and his journey through life, I believe this is what he is saying, through and through. And I believe that's our message as well. If we want to do the same, where do we start? With ourselves. This theme of this conference, let's change the way the world works, thinks, acts. Can I alter that just for this presentation very quickly? Let's change the way I work. Let's change the way I think. Let's change the way I act. And then watch the world around me change. So how do we do it? Well, I gave you this first principle, I believe, of how we do it. We have to define what that next piece is. What's moving us along, right? What's that next piece that is yearning to come out of us, that's inside, this intrinsic piece that wants to be known and seen and developed and shown to the world? What's that next piece? I promise you, I guarantee there is always another level in every single one of us. We are not limited. We have infinite power, but it's up to us to make use of it. I love that. Dr. Hartman, I believe, is this incredible individual because of his life experiences and his desire to know and learn these things, and maybe his gift to bring it to the world, understood that piece, this power of human potential. Where are we at individually with that? Where are we at on our own journey? to fulfill our purpose, as he calls it. I call it to fulfill the measure of your creation, to fulfill why you were created. Have we reached that point individually? Because if we do, collectively, the world is different. Second thing, once we know where it is we want to go, we must be aware. And awareness is so key. In fact, Dr. Hartman used this over 50 times within a couple of chapters in one of his books. You must be aware, and then you must be self-aware. Now, let me explain how I've used this or how I believe this has worked for me, and obviously there's going to be differences for you. But when I've set a new standard for myself or a new goal, how do I feel about it? What comes into my mind after that? Who shows up into my life? Am I even aware of things that are happening? Is it a coincidence that two people have shown up in my life and have told me the same thing? Am I aware of these things? Am I aware that good is trying to transpire? Or am I so set in my ways and my thinking of what I think it should look like that I miss everything else? Am I aware of what is trying to come out of me? Am I aware of the feeling that I had when I walked into this room? Or when I met that person? When I can't put it in words, but I knew that they were special, and I don't know what it was, but I knew there was some type of connection. Do we understand that? Am I aware of that to pursue it? And on the flip side, am I aware when maybe I shouldn't be going down a road? Yet my mind and everything society says, yes, go there, that's exactly what you want. But am I aware enough to go, wait a minute. I believe we've become numb as a society, as people. But again, where do we start to make that change in ourselves? We can't be a light to somebody else if there is no light within us. We have to start with ourselves. How do we move forward? What are we missing? And it wasn't until I realized that inside of me, the Richard inside of me wanted to come out and be better, that all of the extrinsic and systemic things that I was focused on before fell away. And it didn't matter if I was asking that question, have I changed the world yet? It didn't matter. My world was changed. I was growing. And guess what? Everything else around me happened at a faster pace and at a larger scale. And I loved that. And so I know every single thing that we do in those moments will be for our good, will grow us, will help us be. This is self-awareness, he says, is different from knowing. Some people know everything but are aware of nothing. I love that. Have you ever met anybody like that? You're like, oh, let me tell you what I know about this and I know about that. No, I just check in, right? Check in. Is this something that's going to be good for me? The writing says, yes, it will be. Society says, yes, but am I aware for me? Sometimes, unfortunately, our intellect blocks our attempt to become alive in the spirit within us, to become self-aware. I believe there is a portion of us inside that is crying to come out. And we have to be courageous enough to let it show up. That's what this intrinsic peace means, regardless of what it is. How often are we pushing things down because of fear? Fear of what people will say or think or judgment or whatever it is, right? Let me come up and be seen. For there is greatness in everything. And there's greatness in everyone, and there is greatness in you. If we cannot define and become aware of ourselves, we are lost. And have you ever seen that? And maybe this is Hartman trying to paint this picture for us today. You may know everything. And we know those kinds of people, yet there's this innate sense they are lost. And yet he contrasts that with somebody that may not know everything, yet they're so connected with themselves. They know exactly where they're at, and they know exactly that where they're at is the right place to be in that right moment. For us to change the world, collectively, we have to be there. How do we do it? It's individual. Nobody can do that work for you. It is your own to do. Third thing, take personal responsibility. Once I know where I want to go, this next level that's inside of us, once I'm aware of traps or things that are trying to keep me from becoming that, I have to own what's there. It's mine, whatever that is. I've had conversations with quite a few business people that some of the stuff that when we look and become aware is not pretty or pleasant. But if we can't own it, this piece of ownership is our ability to change it. If we're blaming, we have no control. And the only piece of control we need is enough to change it. We're infinitely powerful, like Dr. Hartman said, but we have to be able to take that piece and to know it's mine and I can do something about it. It may have been tragic, it may have been unfortunate, it may not have been anything that happened because of my fault, but if I don't own that, I can't change it. I can't take that seed, and I believe it's a seed of discouragement or whatever it was, and turn it into a fruitful plant, unless I own it and say, yes, we're going to plant it, we're going to water it, and we're going to glean what life gave me from this. This is part of our uniqueness. This is a part of our unique journey that then how we shine. I like to put it this way. Never put the key to your own happiness in someone else's pocket. This is taking responsibility. I am personally responsible for my life, for my feelings, for my emotions, for my state of being. I believe Dr. Hartman would agree with that then also is a morally good person. This to me was the crime of crimes, to throw onto the rubbish heap a life given by God, a life which in the giving must have included an obligation for the receiver to make the most of it. We've all been given it. We all have one and only one. What have we done with it? And it's not an out there thing. It's an in here thing. And that'll be the most important work that you'll ever do. Whatever I would achieve in life, do for humanity, I would do through development of the talents and abilities given me at birth. I love that. If we can realize that we have greatness, and I know we do to some extent, but you know what? He says it's limitless. That gets me excited. I put a smile on my face. It's limitless. There is no end. That's kind of hard to comprehend, but I can at least go step by step, meaning there's another step for me. I'm not stopping at this point. And times in my life I've wanted to stop. But if we can know that there's another step and take that, to define what it is, to be aware of what comes up, what mountains we have to climb or what valleys we have to go down through, and to take responsibility for that journey, I promise you, it will change the world. It will change your world, and once you've changed your world, it won't matter anymore, but I guarantee and promise you, you will change other people's worlds. So how do we do that in this conference? How do you do that for you in your life? How do we do that with the Hartman Institution is something I want us all to ponder. And if you will write that down, what's one thing I would like to change, like to grow, like to become, like to add to me, to you as a person, for the sake of whatever that is, to develop you. I started learning Latin. I don't know why. I just started thinking about it. I want to learn Latin, so I did. I'm not very good, but at least there's something. But it tells me there's something more for me, and there's something more for all of us. Thank you so much.
I just had one question in terms of how long ago were you first exposed to Robert Hartman's writings?
I was first exposed to his writings probably less than a year ago. Yeah, I was exposed to some of the work from Dave. Showed up to a conference I attended, 12, 15 years ago? But didn't do anything until about 3 years ago with the work. Yeah. So I'm new. I'm a newbie.
What is it about this that really grabbed you, that made it part of what you want to synthesize in your life?
Well, that's a great question. I think for me, when I first saw the instrument, and I think many of us maybe have been introduced because of the instrument, there was a lot of knowledge there, right, about me that I knew innately, but I didn't want to share, but it existed. and to go, wow, that was amazing. For me, I love to get from point A to point B as fast as we can, and I think that's the progress of humanity. If you were in London 100 years ago, how long did it take you to get to New York? How fast can you do it today? Right? And it wasn't because we sped up that mode of transportation. It was because we developed a new mode of transportation that we can do it fast. And I believe the same thing within in this world of personal development. We have to be able to do things faster. We have to be able to, well, self-actualize faster. Can we? Is that even possible? Yes. And in this space, I'm a very big believer in personal development and obviously taking accountability and growing and developing, but there hasn't been a breakthrough, I believe, in 50, 100 years. And I saw this as a very interesting piece where you could quickly pinpoint ways to change and grow. But more than that, now I think his writings and his philosophy were right on. The moral of the story isn't the instrument, right? The moral of the story is that we can be morally good people. Yet how many people in the world want to do that anymore? I think it's an individual thing.
Other comments and questions?
I don't know if there's really an answer to this question, but but being at this conference and listening to, I haven't, thought about Hartman in quite in this way that I've been experiencing in this conference. And do you see Hartman as like I don't know the right word for it, almost like a spiritual science, or a way to bring spirituality into like our development as humans, into technology, into science? I don't have the right words for it, but that's what it feels like. And I feel like it's important for this work.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. You know, I've talked with Cliff about this. I'm new, and I bring a fresh set of eyes. A lot of experience in other things, but a fresh set of eyes to this to go, yes, there is an essence. And the world is moving away from that spiritual component in anything or every avenue that we do, right? You have to be very careful in what setting you're at when you want to speak about those things. But when you read his work, it's the essence of it. There really is, and I believe we have to come back to that, especially for us in this room, and embrace it and to go, yes, there was. He believed it. He talked about it. He wrote about it, right? He believed in a spiritual part to this. And to miss that would be to miss Hartman.
Also more a comment than a question. I really liked your big assertion, be aware, because I also think that's what it is about, and it's linked to that spirituality thing. How are we aware of things? So we need to use our senses, and sensing is not only thinking. It's more than this. And yeah, I just liked it, and I would add, it is also possible to come from the individual, from this awareness to awareness in organizations. And this is how we can bring it into our all-day business worlds. There is the connection, the link, and the bridge. So thank you for this.
Awesome. Thank you for your comment.
Other questions and comments?
Just wondering, you sound, when you speak, a little bit like you would be a fan of Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now.
Maybe. This is one book I've never read. There's a few I've never read. I'm an avid reader, but that's one I never have. But should I put it on my reading list?
Well, it sounds like,
Yes.
you're in here now, so.
Oh, cool. Great.
We had a discussion this morning in one of the groups about the impact of AI on our society, our world, and the technology and the feeling that people have that they're going to be lost because of what's taking over their work, what's taking over their world. What thoughts do you have on that?
Great question. Well, my mind immediately goes to writings that, and obviously I wasn't alive when the automobile came about, but writings that I've read, that those similar feelings happened at those same times. what is going to happen? This is going to take over the world. This is going to change the way we do things. This is not good. All we need are just these horses, right? But can we live in a world without that today? No. Why? Well, I think because human beings are the masters of our own destiny regardless. Were there some people that struggle with that? Yes. Were there some people that didn't move quickly with that? You better believe it. But those that did were now able to do more good or more evil, right? And I think it's just another tool for us to do more of what we already do. That's how I believe it is. That's what I see. Should we be afraid of it? I think change is inevitable. I think what we have to do is be ready for change ourselves. And studying Hartman's work, I believe, can help us get there. But at the same point, I want to add to this, because I was in that discussion. AI, right? Or devices or technology and anything else. If I hold up my cell phone, does it do anything? No. If it's turned off, there's nothing happening. It's just a piece of whatever there. It takes the programming to actually do something, right? Well, who programs it? People. Well, who's programming? What are the people? What are the qualities? What are the values of the people? We want to change technology. We want to make sure it's for good. We better help and ensure that good people are writing the technology, writing the software, and moving technology in a direction for more good, or it will naturally go in a way where we don't want it to go. But I think if we're on a moral high ground anyways, it can't have any effect.
Which brings us to the dichotomy that Cliff talked about initially, is that technologically our world has moved, phenomenally in the past 4,000 years or whatever. But emotionally, socially, other ways of interaction, we haven't moved that much. And that's the critical factor in how technology is used. At this point in particular, is that we need the influence of that other piece.
Yes.
On the technology.
Well, I want to add one thing, and I know we're about out of time, but these are vehicles, and I love this. Technology is, we're doing incredible things, but we're morally bankrupt, right? Maybe as a society, maybe individually, but the only thing that we can do is change ourselves. But if I've changed myself and I want to help propagate this, how fast can I do that with social media, with a Twitter account, with a Facebook account, with whatever? I can communicate instantly. I can hop on a Zoom and talk to somebody as if they were there in my living room and they're on the other side of the world. I love that. Whereas before, I'd have to travel there or I had to get them on the phone. So we have more opportunities to do good in the world. We have more opportunities to publish his works and get them out there to people in a medium so quickly than we ever had before. Are we up for the task to go at that speed? Are we developed enough to move that fast? That's what I would pose this question of, are we morally good to be able to stand the speed of propagating moral goodness throughout the world? Because we can do it as fast as we're capable of on an individual basis.
So again, a task for us.
A task for us.
Well, let me close this session then with something from my memory from Hartman's writings. Know thyself, choose thyself, create thyself, of thyself.
Amen.